I used to think the only way to win in the stock market was to chase the loudest names, the ones flooding every headline, every Twitter feed, every friend's group chat. Nvidia, Tesla, Amazon. Don't get me wrong, they're great companies, but chasing them, that cost me a lot. 3 years ago, while everyone else was hyped up over the next big IPO, I stumbled across this quiet little stock called AppLovin. No one was talking about it. It didn't have a cult following or viral clips, but something about its numbers, they just made sense. Fast forward to today, it's up over 2,000%. And me? I almost didn't buy it because it wasn't popular enough. That moment rewired how I invest. I realized the biggest opportunities aren't always the loudest. They're the ones that are quietly compounding in the background, while everyone else is distracted. And in today's world, where AI hype is everywhere and interest rates are playing ping pong with investor confidence, knowing where to place your bets is more important than ever. So today I'm going to show you the 8 best stocks I'm personally buying before October. These aren't just trendy tickers. They're companies with real revenue, real growth, and real staying power. Some of them you've heard of, others probably not. But each one carries a unique edge I believe the market is underestimating right now. If you've ever felt like the market is a rigged game, or like you're always one step behind, I want you to watch this video all the way through. Because by the end, you won't just have a list of stocks. You'll understand why I chose them and how you can think about investing with clarity, not noise. Let's dive in. When I talk about investing, most people expect me to chase the same shiny objects the internet won't stop yelling about. But I don't look for hype. I look for heat without headlines. Setups that show strength but still fly under the radar. That's where the real edge lives. Over the years, I've come to rely on a simple framework. Momentum, not mania. See, mania is loud. It's reactive. It's what happens when everyone piles in too late. Momentum, that's quieter. It builds gradually. It shows up in the numbers before it shows up in the headlines. That's where I focus. So here's my approach. I lean on mega cap stocks when I want reliability and consistent returns. The foundational plays that keep the portfolio solid even in turbulent times. But I pair them with asymmetric bets. Smaller companies with strong fundamentals that the market hasn't fully priced in yet. The goal? Beat the index with a smart mix of durability and upside. And that's exactly what today's list is all about. These 8 stocks I'm buying before October, they're not hype-driven or algorithm-picked. They're grounded in real-world demand, strong data, and a bit of contrarian insight. I've run the numbers, I've studied the trends, and now I want to show you what I found. Let's kick it off with one of my favorite under-the-radar plays, Vertiv VRT. Now, most people investing in AI are chasing chips and software, but few are paying attention to the plumbing. And that's exactly what Vertiv provides. They're the unsung hero behind the massive shift happening in data centers right now. Here's the thing. Modern data centers are overheating. Air cooling isn't cutting it anymore. With rack densities surging, operators are shifting toward liquid cooling systems, and Vertiv is supplying the infrastructure. Everything from coolant distribution units to heat exchangers to prefab power modules. They're not just catching a wave, they're powering it. In Q2 alone, Vertiv reported $2.6 billion in revenue, up 35% year over year, and they're sitting on a $7.9 billion backlog. That's not potential growth, that's already booked business. But here's what really caught my eye. Their PG ratio is sitting at 0.8. For anyone new to that term, PIG compares a company's price to its earnings growth. A ratio under 1 typically signals undervaluation. The S&P 500's average PEG is almost double that, which means this isn't just a growth story, it's a value play too. Vertiv isn't flashy, you probably won't see it trending. But behind every screaming hot AI application, there's a humming data center. And Vertiv's gear is what keeps it from catching fire. This to me is smart investing, spotting the essential before it becomes obvious. If AI is the future, then data is the fuel. And Arista Networks, ANET, is building the highways to move it all. See, everyone's focused on the processors, but none of that matters if your data can't move fast enough. That's where Arista steps in. They're not just making switches, they're reinventing the backbone of AI infrastructure. As AI workloads explode, data centers are shifting from legacy connections to ultra-fast Ethernet. In fact, in June 2025, the Ultra Ethernet Consortium, which Arista co-founded, released Spec 1.0, officially setting the standard. That's massive. Why? Because for years, InfiniBand dominated high-performance computing, but it was expensive, closed, and frankly, slow to evolve. Now Ethernet is winning, and Arista's leading the charge with smarter AI-grade networking. Think congestion control, telemetry tuned for AI clusters, and switching speeds already at 800 gigabits with 1.6 terabit ports on the horizon. Their numbers back it up. $2.2 billion in Q2 revenue, up 30% year over year, with gross margins above 60%. That kind of profitability is rare in infrastructure, and it speaks to just how vital their tech is becoming. But here's the kicker. Even with all that speed, networks are useless without chips. And that's where our next pick comes in. The company that literally makes modern chips possible. Let's talk about ASML, the quiet toll booth of the entire semiconductor industry. You can't build an advanced chip without passing through ASML. Why? Because they make the only machines on Earth that can print the ultra-tiny features on today's most powerful chips. These machines use something called EUV lithography, extreme ultraviolet light that lets you cram more transistors into a smaller space. And now ASML is rolling out the next generation, high-N AEUV. Here's the simplest way to think about it. Old machines are like inkjet printers. High-N AEUV is like upgrading to a 3D laser engraver. These new systems process 60% more wafers per day, use less space, and cost more, which means higher margins for ASML and better performance for their customers. Intel already has 2 of these machines. TSMC is lining up too, and as demand scales, ASML wins twice, once on the sale and again on ongoing service contracts and upgrades. It's recurring revenue, but in a hardware world. Think about this. Every single AI chip, whether it's from NVIDIA, AMD, or Apple, has to pass through an ASML machine at some point. That's not just dominance. That's irreplaceable. In investing, we talk a lot about moats. ASML isn't just in a moat, they're in a fortress surrounded by water, walls, and a bunch of patents that no one else can touch. So when I think about long-term compounders, companies with real structural power, this is one of the first names on my list. Next up is a company that's quietly pulling off one of the biggest pivots in tech, Broadcom, AVGO. For years, Broadcom was seen as a legacy player. Solid, dependable, but nothing exciting. Today, that's changed. Broadcom has transformed into an AI-first powerhouse, and they've got the numbers to prove it. In Q2 alone, their AI chip and networking revenue hit $5.2 billion, up 63% year over year. And their $110 billion backlog isn't just impressive, it's a roadmap. That backlog gives Broadcom multi-quarter visibility, a rare level of predictability in such a fast-moving industry. But the real story here isn't just chips. Broadcom is going deep into custom accelerators, the specialized silicon that powers AI workloads at hyperscale. Think Amazon, Microsoft, and other cloud giants building their own chips with Broadcom behind the scenes. And then there's VMware, the software acquisition that most people still don't fully appreciate. VMware adds a massive layer of recurring revenue, enterprise penetration, and synergy with Broadcom's hardware offerings. It's like a second growth engine bolted onto an already massive ship. Broadcom isn't chasing AI headlines. They're supplying the infrastructure and intelligence to make AI real at scale. It's that mix of old-school execution and next-gen relevance that makes this stock one of my top buys before October. Now, let's talk about a company that's the exact opposite of a household name, but arguably one of the most critical in the entire AI supply chain. Supermicro, SMCI. Most people haven't heard of them, that's fine. Because hyperscalers know exactly who they are. Why? Because Supermicro builds AI rack scale systems, the actual hardware that packages the chips, the cooling, and the power into plug-and-play systems ready to be deployed at scale. And when I say ready, I mean they're already shipping Blackwell-class racks with liquid cooling by default, while others are still prototyping. Their capacity? 5,000 racks per month, including 2,000 liquid-cooled units. That's industrial scale. In quarter 4 of fiscal 2025, they grew 25% quarter over quarter, not year over year, quarter over quarter. That's insane speed in manufacturing. And here's the dream versus reality moment. The dream is that AI is growing exponentially. The reality is, someone has to actually build the boxes that make it possible. Chips are sexy, but Supermicro is the one that makes them usable. In a world racing to deploy AI clusters, speed beats branding, and Supermicro is winning that race, rack by rack. If AI is a garden, then Taiwan's Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, is both the soil and the sun. Without them, nothing grows. Nearly every major chip designer, Apple, Nvidia, AMD, Qualcomm, relies on TSMC to bring their blueprints to life. They don't just manufacture chips, they enable the entire industry. And now, with the AI boom in full swing, their dominance has only deepened. Let's talk numbers. 33.8% year-over-year revenue growth as of August, with total YTD growth running above 37%. And that's not just from their cutting-edge 3-nanometer process, which already accounts for 24% of wafer revenue. The real choke point? Advanced packaging, specifically CoWoS, or chip-on-wafer-on-substrate. Here's why that matters. AI accelerators like NVIDIA's B200 or AMD's MI300 don't just need raw processing power, they need high-bandwidth memory tightly integrated. CoWoS is the secret sauce that ties those components together. And right now, NVIDIA has already locked down 70% of TSMC's CoWoS capacity for 2025. That's how critical this technology is. TSMC doesn't just print chips, they define the pace of progress. And with both market share and pricing power locked in, they remain the irreplaceable heartbeat of advanced computing. Now let's shift gears to a company you definitely know, but may not fully appreciate: Alphabet, GOOGL. Alphabet doesn't usually grab the AI spotlight the way NVIDIA or Microsoft does, but if you look beneath the surface, it might be one of the most undervalued tech giants in the market right now. Let's start with valuation. Alphabet trades at 23 times earnings, slightly below its 5-year median of 25, and well below peers like Microsoft at 36, or NVIDIA hovering near 40. That's already a discount. But then there's free cash flow yield. Alphabet is sitting at 4.5%, well above the S&P 500 average of around 3%. Quick explainer. While PE ratio shows how much you're paying for a company's profits, free cash flow yield tells you how much actual, usable cash the business throws off relative to its price. The higher, the better, and Alphabet's is rock solid. Then there's the hidden AI power. From search in YouTube to Gemini, their language model platform, Alphabet is building and monetizing AI across multiple verticals, often in ways that fly under the radar. This is quiet innovation, backed by massive infrastructure and distribution. It's a cash flow machine with deep AI capabilities, and it's trading at a relative discount. That's why it's on my list, and why I'm continuing to add before the market fully catches on. Let's wrap this up with a pick that sits at the crossroads of old and new. MongoDB, MDB. Traditional databases are built like spreadsheets, rigid rows and columns perfect for structured, predictable data. But AI doesn't work that way. It's messy, fast-changing, and deeply unstructured. That's where MongoDB comes in. MongoDB uses a document-style format called JSON, which means data can adapt on the fly. No need for endless migrations or schema changes. Just flexibility, speed, and scalability. And when it comes to building AI apps, that flexibility is gold. Their cloud product, Atlas, is doing the heavy lifting. It automates scaling, security, and performance, so developers can stop managing infrastructure and just focus on building. In their most recent quarter, revenue hit $591 million, up 24% year over year, with Atlas growing even faster at 29% year over year. Yes, they're still operating with negative margins. But here's the thing, I've seen this movie before. High-growth companies, especially in data and infrastructure, often go through this exact arc. Prove product-market fit, show user stickiness, then flip to profitability. And when they do, the stock doesn't just move, it explodes. So I'm not betting on perfection today. I'm betting on the setup. And MongoDB has all the right signals. Now, let's zoom out for a second. All of these companies, Mikey, from chip makers to database builders, they're pieces of a bigger story. A story about transformation, about how where you invest today will shape your financial freedom for the next decade. This isn't just about beating the S&P or chasing the next hype cycle. It's about escaping the trap of financial dependency, of always playing catch-up, of missing out because you were too distracted by noise. Every name on this list was chosen not because it's trendy, but because it's fundamentally strong, positioned for secular growth, and still has room to run. They're not moonshots, they're high-conviction moves, and they're exactly what I'm doing with my own money. Because here's what I've learned. You don't have to be loud to win big. You just have to be early and right. If this video brought you value, if it made you think differently about where to invest your time and money, hit that like button. It helps more than you know. And hey, if there's a stock you think I missed, drop it in the comments. I read and reply to everyone. And if you want more deep dives like this, no fluff, no hype, just researched insights, subscribe to Dividend Hustle. We're just getting started.